Morning, everybody. I'd just like to say thank you for attending. I'm just going to give an overview of the LiDAR product and the RedScan. A few things that we'll go through. We'll just go through the detection principles so you can get an understanding of what LiDAR is and how LiDAR works. We'll go through applications. We can then look at the portfolio of products that we have within the RedScan product range. We can then go on to introduce the RedScan Pro series and then look at the RedScan Pro and how that could be then integrated into security systems. So that for anyone that doesn't know, the detection principles behind LiDAR is using time of flight. So the LiDAR has a rotating head that's spinning around all the time, and we're emitting a laser light from that. So we create a pulse of laser, goes out through the laser diode and the transmit optics. It then pulses out, it hits a target or a background. As it reflects back in, what we do is measure the time that it takes for that target, that pulse of laser to hit the target, reflect back in, or hit the background and reflect back in. That directly then relates to the time that takes is how far away that object is from the head of the unit. As it's spinning round, we'll then take a sample either every quarter of a degree or every eighth of a degree. So by doing that, it will let us work out exactly the XY coordinates. We know with the time of flight how far away something is from the head of the unit. We know with the pulses that we send out how far through the cycle it is. So it'll give us the XY coordinates of that target. But what it'll then also allow us to do is, depending on the amount of pulses that hit that target, it then also lets us measure the size of the target, which is one of the key things. So the good thing about the LiDAR product is we actually have intelligent algorithms in there, so we can detect human targets. So a human target at 3 meters, nice and easy to detect. Human target at 50 meters, we can always work out the perspective and always get that perspective right. Doesn't matter how far away that target is, we will always know how far away it is and then know how big it is. So human beings moving around within the detection area will give you an activation for. Likewise, on the other side of things, for false alarm resistance, if you get a bird that flies past the head of the unit through the detection area at 3 meters, we know it's only 3 meters away, we'll just ignore that. If something flies through at the 50-meter range, we can give you the activation for that. So with the LiDAR technology, it generates its own light in the pulses of lasers that goes out. So the good thing with the product is it can work in complete darkness. It doesn't matter about any light level changes that you get with a LiDAR. If it's light, if it's dark, also doesn't matter about temperature changes. If it's hot or it's cold, the LiDAR will always give you the detection that you set up. So you can set up very accurate perimeters with the LiDAR technology, and you've got a lot of control. If you want to set it up to give you 28.7 meters worth of detection and stop at that point, it will stop at that point. It doesn't matter whether it's light or dark, hot or cold, it will always stop at that point. With the detection, we typically deploy it in 2 different scenarios. So it can be installed vertically, covering down the face of a building. We can also angle that away to give you the detection for approach detection towards a building. Or the other application is mounting it horizontally, where we mount it around about the 1.2 meters, and it'll just look out horizontally to give you detection for approach detection, somebody heading towards that building. With regards to the RedScan, as we've said, it will work in complete darkness. So we have got lots of applications where it's actually working in either horizontal or vertical mode in areas like under floors in data centers, in ceilings above data centers, office blocks, for example. So it can work in those complete dark environments. And just one warning to take into mind, it is just a single plane of detection. It's not a volumetric product. So you do need to take into consideration you've just got this curtain of detection in this scenario, or you've got this ceiling or this horizontal area of detection in this scenario, and that you need clear line of sight. So if you get an object, you're going to cast a shadow in the detection area, and that potential detection area is not going to pass beyond that object. So just something that you need to take into consideration with this design. If you're installing in this kind of scenario and you're looking for angle detection, you can angle it away, but you just make sure that the RedScan that's covering this side of the building would also then overlap with the detection. So you just block that entire area off. So for common applications, fence line applications, there's thousands of RedScans that are installed in fence line applications. The good thing about the RedScan is you can get it to a high mounting height, so you can go anywhere between 4 and 15 meters with a RedScan. So if you're going to want to get it mounted up above the height of the fence line to give you detection on anyone trying to cut or climb that fence, or even where somebody might be trying to use access equipment. Obviously the fence that's illustrated here is a high fence, but that's a standard commercial application fence, or like a 2.3 palisade. There are multiple sites out there where there's potential risks of somebody using a climbing aid or using access equipment and actually jumping over a fence. With the RedScan, the good thing is you get it up above the height of that fence line, so install it 4 meters, install it 6 meters, have it giving you that coverage above the top of the fence line and then also down the face of the fence line as well. That could either be internally or externally. If anyone then comes along to attack the fence line, you get an activation, but if they use that access equipment and try and go over this top area, again, you still get the activation. Other vertical applications on indoor scenarios, and these are just some of the applications that you can use RedScans for. There's so many different variances that you can use it for. We've just had to limit it for today, or we could go on for hours and hours, but just to give you an idea, vertical applications on indoor, there's lots of access control scenarios where what we're actually doing is giving detection above the access control. So although these are very aesthetically pleasing access control barriers, it's very easy for somebody to try and hop over the top of that. With the RedScan, we've got multiple applications again where we just create this vertical wall of detection sat above the turnstiles. If somebody comes along and tries to jump over the top of that, we'll give you an activation. When it's used in conjunction with the access, if somebody fobs in here, we can deselect this zone. Somebody can walk through, so you wouldn't get an activation. We can also use the RedScan for approach detection. So on certain applications, it might be on a higher security application where you want approach detection towards a fence line, or it might actually be that you've actually got a sterile zone, so you've got an inner fence and an outer fence. We can deploy the RedScans vertically, and it'll give you this approach detection. So we can give you somebody crawling along on the hands and knees, for example, or if you put a little bit of an angle onto a RedScan, we can actually give you somebody crawling along on their belly, for example, trying to get into a site. So the RedScans are used in a multitude of applications, from commercial applications right the way through to the higher security applications as well, and that's typically how it tends to be deployed in those. We'll put a little bit of angle on, and then anything down to a 25 centimeter target we can give you an activation for. Now the good thing is with the RedScan, we actually work out the size of that target, so even in these applications you can get the human being crawling through giving you an activation, but if you've got rabbits running around in those scenarios, we'll just totally ignore those. The other approach detection application is mounting the RedScan horizontally. And with the new RedScan Pro, the 5100, we can actually do range extension on that. And we can actually give you detection on vehicles approaching up to 80 meters away from where the RedScan location is. So that's just a nice application for giving you a pre-warning of somebody heading towards a site. We then look at building applications. So again, there's loads of building applications that RedScans are installed on. We've got 34 data centers in the UK where we're doing this kind of scenario. RedScans are mounted at a high level down the side of the building and just giving that detection. If anyone comes within a meter of the building, we get a higher level of security alert to let somebody know, let the security team know that somebody's coming close proximity to that building. Again, it's not only the higher security applications, they're deployed on commercial applications. So anywhere where you've got weak point roller shutter doors, if you've got a risk of somebody trying to jack a roller shutter door up and go into a warehousing application, they can be used. We've got cash and carry kind of centers where we're actually deploying RedScans. There's ones that we do where we do vertically down the side of the building and again angle it away from the building for approach detection with a double layers detection. The other common building application is rooftops. So with rooftops, what we're seeing now is there's more and more sites where people are identifying detection devices along the side of the building. So they will pick up the fact that the building has got cameras mounted at 4 meters, potentially detection that's mounted at 4 meters. And what they're then doing is looking at sites where they can go from a neighboring site, which maybe doesn't have detection, bridge over the top of the fence, up onto the top of the building and then breaking through the roof. So we've seen quite a few warehouses where that's happened. Now, unfortunately, in these applications, they haven't had RedScans installed and the owner of the warehouse has known nothing about the site being broken into until he's come in the next day and found out that somebody has borrowed a scaffolder's ladder, for example, bridged that fence line, bridged up on top of that rooftop from the site next door. They've then gone along that rooftop, they've dropped down through the skylights onto the racking within the warehouse environment, and have then started taking the items that they wanted and gone back out the same way. On those sites, they've known absolutely nothing about that until they've gone back in the next morning. With the red scan, we can deploy it up there, really giving a high performance detection. Anybody walking around up there will give you an activation for, but again, using the time of flight technology and taking those pulses every quarter of a degree, if there's a bird that flies in and lands on that roof, we'll know it's a bird and we'll just ignore that and not give you an activation for that. Other applications, asset protection. So this could be either internal applications or external applications. So on internal applications, we do asset protection on museums and galleries, for example. This is an exhibition that we had set up where we had the RedScan 2020 set up covering this area. If you put your hand into any of these areas, so the red area where the jewelry is or the blue area where the bottles of drink are, you get an activation. If you put your hand next to this area, it would totally ignore that. Now, there's different applications in real world applications where that has been installed in bars, for example, in hotels, restaurants, where they want to protect the drink for when they potentially lock up, but there's still residents there. If anybody tries to reach in, we'll give you an activation. Right the way through to multiple galleries around the world where the red scan's installed, where you want a detection for somebody putting their hand towards a painting or a high value artifact that's within that site. Anybody putting their hand in there, it'll give you an activation. But if you literally go to the other side of this detection area, put your hand on that wall, it'll just totally ignore you. There's different ways you can set it up. You can set it up for hand detection. You can set it up for more like a body detection, and that's just done with the target size that we set up. We can also use it for asset protection in external environments. So that's typically where we're setting up a vertical sterile zone around some assets that are on site. So that's been generators that are doing backup power supply on data centers, for example. It could be in pharmaceutical sites, it could be chemical sites. We can deploy the red scans, we can mount them either vertically or we can, and we have done on other applications, mounted them horizontally and just give you approach detection or that secure detection. Now, the good thing with the red scan is you set that boundary of detection up and it is very, very precise. It's very, very crisp and clean. When somebody goes in that detection area, you get an activation. If they're not in that detection area, it'll just totally ignore them. Or if there's any wildlife, anything that's blown around, we just ignore that. So looking at the portfolio of products, the RedScan product, or our LiDAR products, have been around for 12 years now. So the original RedScan, which was the 3060, was brought out in 2009, and we were the first manufacturer to bring out a LiDAR product that was dedicated as a security product. The whole thing with the RedScan is it was designed as a security product, not an automation product or a health and safety product that we've tried to bring into the security environment. It was a security product right from the start. Back in 2013, we did some further development on the RedScan, and we brought out the 3060L and then brought out some additional features in the 3060SH. Moving on to 2016, there was then a demand where we're doing a lot of perimeter applications with the RedScan, but you wouldn't need the full 60 meters worth of detection with the 3060, and you'd need a smaller area, so we brought out the 2020. Now with the 2020, that was brought out with an eye being an internal version, or the 2020S, which is internal or external, and again gives additional features. That has gone on to then be a graded product within the UK, so those 2020s can be used on intruder alarm applications where you're looking for police response, so ideal for warehousing, looking below suspended ceilings, boxing off secure cages, for example. And then in 2021, we've brought out the RedScan Pro series, which is the first OnViv Profile S LiDAR product, which we'll come on to in a second. So looking at the overview of those products and the detection areas, the 2020i, which is the indoor model that we mentioned, that can only be used for indoor applications, will give you a 20 meter by 20 meter detection area. Moving up to its big brother, the 2020S, this is the one that can be used for internal or external applications. Originally that came out and would give you the 20 meter by 20 meter detection, but what we've then done is extended that, and that will actually give you 30 meter radius at 95 degrees. So if you've got any areas where you're looking at that 25 meter area, then that 2020S will sit quite nicely to give you that detection area. Again, that can be used for internal or external applications. So they tend to be used on a lot of building applications, a lot of fence line applications where you've got a shorter run, and it'll just give you that return in that detection to cover that shorter run. Then moving on to the 3060 variant, so we've got the 3060L, that will give us the 30 meter radius This is actually 190 degrees, but just illustrated at the 180. It'll actually give you 190 degrees, 30 meter radius of detection. Or again, its bigger brother, the 3060 SH, is the one that we can do the range extension on. So we can actually push that out to a 50 meter radius at 190 degrees. With that 50 meter radius of detection, that is using a 1/4 of a degree sample. So the one thing that you have to be familiar with that range extension is you are looking for a slightly larger target size. So if it's an application where you want to deploy that vertically, you want a crawling target that's moving towards that, that is not the unit to use if you're going above the 30 meters. 3060 SH will do that fantastic up to the 30 meters. If you're looking to extend that detection range, then ideally what you want to be doing is looking to move up to the Pro series. So in the Pro series, we do the 3060V. One of the important things is we're not talking about a radius of detection now. That 3060 is 30 meters left, 30 meters right, so that's a 60 meters, and it'll actually look 30 meters away from the unit, and it's giving you this rectangle of detection that covers that area. Now, what we can also do with the 3060V, like we can do with the 3060 SH, is give you that range extension feature. So we can push that out to the 50 meter radius of detection. But again, we need to bear in mind those sample rates at a 1/4 of a degree. And if you are looking for that larger target size, that smaller target size at the longer range, then you really need to be looking at the 5100. Now with the 5100, we're giving you the 50 meters left, 50 meters right, so that's the 100 meters that you're going to cover with that one unit. And again, you can look up to 50 meters away, and we can reliably give you detection for a small target, crawling target within those detection areas. Again, what we've done with this unit is given it additional features of doing the range extension. So we can push this out to an 80 meter radius at 190 degrees. The thing you need to bear in mind again is just that separation of the beam. With this unit, we actually use an 1/8 of a degree as opposed to a 1/4 of a degree. But when you're looking at the longer detection range, that is just more for larger objects, vehicles, for example, walking targets as opposed to crawling targets. So we just need to make sure that the red scan that you're deploying is right for the scenario that you're looking for. So with the RedScan Pro and the new key features, we'll give you a run through these. The larger detection area. So what we've seen in the past is people trying to deploy the 3060 and maybe get full coverage of a building. Because of the size of the building and the limitations with the range of the detection, it has sometimes meant multiple red scans been installed. So in this scenario, we've got 3 3060s, for example, that cover the full face of this building. Now, what we can do with the 5100 or potentially the 3060 is just have the one unit. Because it's that rectangular detection, it will actually give you the full detection that will cover the building. So it's just going to be the one unit that's going to be required as opposed to the 3. Another application is the rooftop application. So if you're looking for blanket coverage on a rooftop, sometimes there's multiple units that are required when you look to deploy it. So we deploy the red scans and you will get these detection areas with overlapping coverage. Again, with the 5100 and the 3060V, we have the benefit of that rectangular detection. So you can deploy those and you can cut down on the overall number of units that you're having to install on this site. So the additional range that you're getting out of the 3060V and the 5100V is going to help cut down the number of units that are going to be required on these sites. With regard to housing, we've taken a lot of feedback from the market. Anybody that's familiar with the 3060L and 3060SH know that you need to have the swing bracket on there. With the Pro version, we've now incorporated everything into the housing. So with the housing, you get 100 degree of adjustment with the head, so that will actually spin to get that angle of detection on. So you can actually go 5 degree above horizontal, 5 degree behind vertical, so it will give you 100 degree worth of adjustment on there. You've also got plus or minus 5 degree adjustment on the yaw of the unit as well. So if you're having it looking if you're having it looking vertically parallel down the side of a building, you've got that adjustment, so you can just tweak the adjustment down the side of the building to make sure it's running parallel with that and true with that. So the good thing about the Pro is there's no need for that mounting bracket anymore. The other thing with the Pro is the bracket or the housing of the unit is actually suitable for pole mount applications, ceiling mount applications, and wall mounted applications as well. So that one housing will do all of those scenarios. When you actually come to deploy the unit, it's got a very accurate boundary detection that we mentioned earlier on. We also have features like automatic area adjustment and automatic area setup, so we can set it up to do a scan and it'll automatically learn the boundary. When we're comparing LiDAR to a lot of the products that are out there in the marketplace, so potentially people are looking at radar or looking at passive infrareds or thermal or analytic detection, just wanted to give you a comparison of the benefits of the LiDAR product. So if we had a rectangular compound like this, for example, that we're looking for detection on, and we want very accurate detection of who's moving around within that site, we could deploy a radar, which is going to give you this balloon of detection. But as you'll notice on here, we're going to have areas that are not going to give us coverage. So what we're going to actually have to do with this is crank one unit looking to the left to give you these detection in these corner areas, and one to the right to give you detection in these areas. The other common application is looking at passive or thermal detection or even analytics. Again, what you're going to find is there's going to be multiple units that are required. So a passive infrared is going to cover that area, but you've got all these blind areas, so you're going to have to put multiple units in. The other thing with the passive infrared is it is going to potentially overrange these scenarios. So if it's a palisade fence that looks around this area, you're going to have overranging on there, and you're going to potentially be picking people up outside the area. With the radar, you'll notice that the detection area balloons past this palisade fence, for example. What you can do with the radar is you can put on a detection area, and you can tell it this is a detection area inside the fence line and a non-detect outside the fence line. The problem with the radar technology is you're always looking at plus or minus 1 or 2 degrees, so you can't get that very accurate detection of it sitting just inside the fence line. You have to allow a tolerance for it. With the LiDAR technology, we can map out that exact area, and we can give you detection in that full rectangular area. We can detect right up to that palisade fence and stop just inside that palisade fence. There's never going to be any overranging of it looking outside that site. If anybody gets inside that site, as soon as they hit the criteria that we say, so 0.5 meter of movement, for example, we'll ping you off an activation straight away. So the LiDAR has a lot of benefits over the other technologies that are out there. With regards to the advanced analytics, we've also got a lot of environmental resistance. So in this top site, we've got a lot of fog or mist that's on that site. The red scans on a lot of sites that we've installed them on are actually outperforming a lot of other technologies. So we'll outperform active beams, microwave technology with environmental disturbance in the back, so fog, that kind of thing. There are limitations to the product, and it's an active product, so it will give you a DQ or an environmental output if you get really, really thick fog. But with the RedScan product, you're only looking at that 30 meter or that 50 meter radius, or on the Pro with the 80 meter radius. So you'd literally have to not be able to see a target on that distance before you'd ever get the environmental output triggering to let you know there's a condition on site. If that ever happens, we'll fire the environmental output. We can feed that back to the security team, and they might then just want to do routine patrols to check that environment out. With regards to temperature, the RedScan Pro will operate down to -20 or up to +60. With the RedScan Pro, we also have the feature of adding on the optional heated lens on the unit as well. So we can just do a standard unit, swap out the lens on it to put a heated lens onto it, and then we can go down to -40. So it will work in a lot of different environments. We've also, with the RedScan Pro, added on a camera to the unit. So this is to assist with setup of the unit, and also to assist with detection and verification of what's caused alarm activations. So the camera on there is a 2 megapixel camera. It's a 170-degree fisheye camera, and it's just designed to give you the coverage of the detection area of the RedScan. So what we do is we put on a line on there to illustrate the laser line. So that's where the detection area will be, either hitting the ground or where it be pointing horizontally. So when you connect to the RedScan, use Chrome web browser, connect to the RedScan, it'll give you this view to let you see how the RedScan's set up. So we can quickly and easily see that the RedScan's out of alignment there. It's not giving us the detection that we need, so that needs to be pitched up slightly, and we also need to adjust the yaw on that to make this a horizontal detection area that's looking across that abdomen height of those two targets that are there. The other thing that the camera is also used for is to give us event images. So we have a log on there which will store around about 500 activations, and it'll just store on the visual aspect of what's caused that activation. So any activation that's stored in the log will give you the video to show you what caused that activation. But what we also do is put these brackets around the detection area. So you can just see the little red brackets on there. So that will just highlight that it's a person that's walking across there that's giving you the activation. The other thing that the RedScan Pro will also do in setup, when you go to commission the unit, if there's any outside interference, you'll get little blue brackets that'll be there, and that's just highlighting the area where the RedScan's maybe picking up a little bit of vegetation that's moving, for example. That's enough to let the RedScan know that there's movement, but it's not enough to trigger it, so it'll highlight those areas as well. And what we can do with this is we can actually stream this video out. So if you want to connect it to a VMS system, it'll come out via the OnViv protocol, RTSP protocol. So you can actually feed that into a VMS system as well. The other thing that we've done with the RedScan is we've now got 8 independent detection areas. So people that are familiar with the 2020 or the 3060 will know that we've had independent detection areas in the past, but they've always been governed by the same parameters. So whatever you set up for target size, reaction speed, that has been common across all of the detection areas. What we've actually done now with the RedScan is you've got those 8 independent areas and you can just adjust those independently. So you can change the settings for the sensitivity, you can change the settings for the object size, and also the outputs that you're getting off that. So just to run through a couple of different applications, if you want a pre-warning of somebody walking into an area, you can map this area out using the area allocation and get a pre-warning, which is one particular output, and then look at the critical area, you can set that up as a second output. The other scenarios, if you've got different environments along a fence line, for example, that you want to get different criteria to cause an activation for, you can do that. If you wanted, I don't know, loitering detection by a gateway, for example, you could set the RedScan up, you can set up the sensitivity and the target size, you can also set up the reaction speed and put on a long reaction speed. So somebody needs to be hanging around by that gate for 1 or 2 seconds before you get an activation. If you wanted an area where there's potentially a climbing risk, where somebody might try and use access equipment to jump on top of a roof, you can crank up that reaction time. So in that area, you might want a particular target size, but a much quicker response in the activation. So the RedScan will give you an activation if anyone tries to jump over the fence. And it might be in the third area that's just set up as a fairly clean area. Somebody's going to be trying to climb over that fence line and you've set it up and you don't need as quick a reaction speed. So all of those independent areas can be adjusted, or we can just set it up so there's one common algorithm that covers all of those detection areas. So with regards to the device security, so this is one of the key things with the RedScan, it's always been designed as a security product. So with the RedScan, it will give you tamper. If anyone tries to take the lid off the unit, tries to remove it off the wall, it'll give you a tamper output that you would expect from any security device. We've also got anti-masking on the RedScan as well. So if anybody tries to mask the lens, we can give you an output on that. We can adjust the algorithm on that, so we can adjust the amount of masking that's required, the duration of that masking that's required before you get that anti-masking output. We've also got anti-rotation on the unit as well. So when you set a RedScan up, it's set up the predetermined boundary, the detection area it's covering. If anybody adjusts that for any reason, it will know that that's been adjusted. And again, you can set up the criteria for what you get for anti-rotation. The other thing that we can also do is give you a soiled lens output. So if that lens is getting dirty on the RedScan, it will pick up the fact that it's seeing the dirt on the lens, and it can give you an output to let you know that you're going to need to do a maintenance visit and you're going to have to literally go down and clean the lens on the RedScan. So all of these features, have been built into the RedScan product from the start. It's been designed as a security product. There's lots of LiDAR products that are out there. A lot of them haven't got these features in because they haven't been designed as a security product. The other thing that we've done with the Pro is we've also enhanced the network security on the unit as well. So we've got a lot of the RedScan products that are going into the corporate environments or going into data center sort of environments where nowadays IT security is one of the most important things. So we've enhanced the IT security protocols on the unit. So we're going to be able to lock it down on that network for you to make sure there's no hacking risk through the RedScans. With regards to integration into the security systems themselves, so we've maintained the relay contact outputs on the Pro. So the Pro will actually give you 6 relay contact outputs, and you can map all those outputs that you want. So it might be 4 separate zones, for example, and a tamper output, and then an output for reorientation, anti-masking, and that soiled window. You can map all those through to any of those relays in any way that you want. We've also maintained the Redwall event codes, so people that are familiar with the red scans, they'll know about the Redwall event codes that we use, or the ASCII text string. So we've maintained that. There are a series of VMS systems and NVRs that we integrate to with that at this moment in time. Anybody wants to have a look at those, if they check out the Optex website, then that information is there on the integration pages, or feel free to contact your local representative within Optex who can assist with that. But the big thing with the new RedScan Pro is we've now built in the ONVIV S protocol. So this is the first LiDAR detection device that actually has ONVIV protocol built into it. So with this, will just allow you to connect through to any VMS that has ONVIV on it, any NVR that has ONVIV on it. So the ones that we've got the integration with at this moment in time are, for example, the Genetec Milestone. They have full integration. So every output that we can provide, so the 8 area outputs, the tamper, the reorientation, the anti-masking, the soiled window, the DQ or environmental output, all of that is fully integrated with Genetec and Milestone. So if any one of those trigger comes through on the ONVIV S protocol, and then it'll just go straight into that VMS system. We can integrate with other VMS systems, and it is down to the SDK that we do for the ONVIV, which will be provided by us. And it really is, if you've got a VMS or an NVR that you want it to integrate with, have a conversation with your local Optex representative, and we can assist with that, whether that goes in initially through the ASCII text strings or whether that goes in through the ONVIV. There's lots of integrations that are happening at this moment in time, with this being a product that's fairly fresh to the market. Obviously, that is ongoing work. So if there's any questions with regards to the protocols, then feel free to contact your local Optex representative. So that then kind of takes us to the conclusion of the presentation. I hope that's in a timely manner and has been beneficial for everyone. There's a lot to go through within the product. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to come to us either now or during the session. Matt, over to you.
Excellent. Thanks, gents. Thank you all again. We really do appreciate your time today. As I say, we have recorded this and it will be made available to share via our many social media platforms, which you can subscribe to, which of course are LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. There is a lot of information to take in, so if you'd like a more personal demonstration where we can show you some more of the applications and functions, do let us know and you can get us booked in. Kindly get in touch with your regional point of contact for product overviews, site visits, site surveys, commissioning inquiries for the Optex LiDAR, our bridge, or any of the 400 plus products in our range. So, lovely day out there, wishing you a happy day, a successful collaborative future. We all deserve that after this extraordinary last year. So we wish you all the best and look to see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.